Hello, everyone. My name is Ashante Hands, proud president, San Diego Mesa College. Y'all can come on in. First, I'm so excited to be at this event today, and I'm so excited that our coordinators selected Mesa College as a place to be able to present this exciting information. I really and firmly believe that community colleges are places where students can find and follow their purpose, and that workshops like this can be the spark that can actually propel our students into their future. And I know I just had the opportunity to have a chance to speak with one of our students, and this is something that she has been looking for. And so I'm so excited to be able to work with our Congressman Scott Peters' office, to work with our U.S. Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I thank you all for being able to use us as the space to help our students, again, find and follow their purpose. And we know that this is a field that is very broad, that has depth. A lot of times students don't even know what they know, need to know about the opportunities and possibilities that exist for careers. And so we are here today to expand your capacity and to help, again, spark a light that may be where you end up fulfilling and living out your destiny. So I thank you all for creating this space, and I'll turn it back over to our coordinators.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Ann Pintar. I'm Congressman Scott Peters' Chief of Staff. And when the House Office of Diversity and Inclusion reached out to us and said they wanted to come and provide this workshop, I was very supportive because I think most people don't know what these jobs are. Like, what is the breadth, what are the different positions? What do they do? How do I apply? I don't think a lot of people know. And we want to make sure that more people are aware of what the opportunities are. I also was very eager to have them come out because I am extremely proud of the diversity in our district office, and I wanted a chance to brag about it a little bit. So if you'll indulge me for a minute. In Congressman Peters' office, we make a really concerted effort to make sure that we have a staff that represents the district. And as you all know, San Diego is extremely diverse, and our congressional district is extremely diverse. So let me just tell you a little bit about some of the people in our office. So I'm the Congressman's Chief of Staff, a Latina, and I worked for him for many years, and I was the first Latina to serve as Chief of Staff to the Mayor of San Diego. Of the 8 people who work in our district office, 6 are people of color, 3 Latinos, 2 members of the AAPI community, 1 member of the LGBTQ+ community, and an African American woman. And people of color in our office have high positions. I just mentioned to you that I'm the Chief of Staff. Our Press Secretary, Daniela Contreras, is here. We have another press secretary in our DC office who is also Latino. Our Director of Constituent Service is Cesar Solis. He's here. In addition to diversity, we also make a really concerted effort to hire people from within and promote people from within. We have a lot of people who start out as interns in our office and then work their way up the ladder. Cesar was an intern in college at UCSD. We hired him as a field representative, and now he is in a management position. And then the last thing I will say, there's a lot I could tell you, but I want to get onto the program, is that we've made it a priority to make sure that we pay all of our interns. It is important to me that we have people who can be interns in our office that might not otherwise be able to do it if they couldn't get paid. It's, I was one of those students. I couldn't take an unpaid internship when I was in college because I was putting my way through, and I totally get that. So I would encourage you to look for the internship applications in our office if you're interested, and know that these are jobs that we would love to help you grow in these careers. So with that, I'm happy to let you start the program.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for being with us. My name is Dr. Sisha Joy Moon. I am the Director of the U.S. House Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So to tell you a little bit about our office, we're going on about 3 years old. We were established as part of the 116th Congress, and our mission is to help create and cultivate a diverse and inclusive congressional workforce within the U.S. House of Representatives that truly is a reflection of the American people. We pretty much accomplished that through 4 key service offerings. The first is candidate services, where we really help to connect candidates to careers with Congress. The second is research and data analytics, where we explore the state of representation across the House workforce, which also extends to understanding diversity and witness testimonies as well. The third is training, and then the fourth is programming, where we really leverage convenings to be able to drive DEIA-related awareness and competencies across the House workforce. So I think that's the official spiel, right? It is a pleasure to be with you all here today. Our office was stood up in the pandemic. With that, a lot of our events have had to be virtual, and this is our first event in person within a district. And a lot of the work that happens on Capitol Hill, of course, the focus is on DC, and we recognize that the boots on the ground work happens in the communities within the districts. And so we are making a strategic effort to connect with districts so that you all understand that you all, not just to pursue a career in Congress, but you belong in Congress. It is the people's house, and you all are the people, and so we make a real effort among our team to meet the people where they are. Marianne kind of hit the nail on the head. Some people think about Congress and they think that you have to have a PhD, or you have to have an MBA, you have to have a focus in leg affairs or public policy. There's so many careers: communications, IT, HR, there are chief administrative officers, HR directors. There are so many roles: schedulers, staff assistants. The list of opportunities are endless, and that's in DC and that's in the district. And I think that now's a really special time to join the House. We have recent increases in pay for the baseline salary. We have paid internships in the post-pandemic era. There are hybrid working environments, which is really new to the congressional landscape. It's just a really special time to work on Capitol Hill. And so I'm gonna share the floor with my deputy, Jabin Castro, and then you all will be in really good hands with our senior professional staffers, Katrina Oshima and Diego Zambrano, who are really gonna take a deeper dive on how to pursue a career with Congress. Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll keep it really quick because Diego and Katrina are really going to take the floor. I just want to echo what Dr. Moon said. We're really excited. When I helped establish the office in March of 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, we had plans to come out into the districts because, as Dr. Moon mentioned, a lot of focus is in DC, and the way that you get a job in DC is by showing up there and trying to network there. And our office is really focused on bringing the careers into the communities, educating our communities in opportunities, our careers in Congress. I like to, often share my experience. Right after high school, I joined the military. I was in the Navy for 10 years, and I was 28 years old when I got to DC, and it was my first time learning about careers in Congress. I met someone and I said, where do you work? And the reply was, I work on the Hill. Witch Hill, exactly, like Witch Hill. I'm 28 years old, I have no clue what you're talking about. And they're like, oh, I work in Congress. Are you an elected official? No, I'm a staffer. What's a staffer? So like, the vision for our office was to come into the communities so you're not just having to get to DC. So we're really excited, as we mentioned a second ago, that this is our first in-person visit to a college. We do a lot of colleges and universities, these programming, but it's always been virtual. So we're excited to be here. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Diego and Katrina, who will now teach you how to get to Congress. Guys?
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katrina Oshima, and I'm one of the senior professional staff members with the House Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I hadn't heard of the title of a professional staff member before I came to Congress. It's just a fancy name to say I'm a staffer of the office and I'm here to help you. And so I'll just pause there and let Diego introduce himself.
And I'm Diego Zambrano, Katrina's counterpart in the office. Both started. Katrina was the first one to actually start before I did. But we've been able to kind of have this pipeline or create this pipeline for students like yourselves to come to Congress. And that really is the goal, not only for our office, but also for this presentation and for you all to come to us and stay in Congress. So what exactly is the House Office of Diversity and Inclusion? Like I said, this is a resource office. This is an office where we are here not only to help those that are already in Congress, but those that are external of Congress. Because like Jabin, Katrina, and myself, the rest of the staff in the office, we didn't know that Congress was an option. Nobody tapped into us or asked us, you know, would you like to apply for a job here? We kind of just managed it on our own. But now that this office exists, we're here to tell you what that will look like. Why work at the House of Representatives? The House of Representatives is actually one of the youngest workforces around. And to have folks that are 25, 30, and they're creating policy, and you're able to create that policy and bring it back to your community, wherever that might be. The different job opportunities that exist in the House, Dr. Moon explained what that would look like. It could go from staff assistant position, which is an entry-level position, to what Mary Ann is, which is a chief of staff. This is the different opportunities that exist, but within those opportunities, there are also very administrative positions, and there are positions that are open to everybody, not just solely to people that did political science or that did international relations. How can we help you? This is where we kind of just go in depth as to what our office can do for you and hopefully land a job within Congress. And then we'll go into our Q&A and hopefully you all will have some questions for us.
Yeah, but before we go any further into the presentation, we would definitely be remiss if we didn't, talk about the wider office. Of course, you've already met Dr. Moon and Jabin, who are director and deputy director, respectively. But we have a whole team of professionals behind our office really helping to do this work of cultivating a diverse workforce within the U.S. House of Representatives. You will see that asterisk up there. We do have 2 fellows/interns rotating every 120 days. So, if you're thinking about that summer internship, we do pay our interns good stipend for their work they do for us. So reconnect with us in the future if that's something you're interested in.
What is our office? Our office, as everyone has said, we were created in the 116th Congress. So we're a fairly new office, and the goal is to really cultivate these pipelines and bring you all to come to our office and to Congress, essentially. But as we've grown, we started as an office of 6, and now we're an office of 12. We're really here to just be that resource and help out as much as possible. Like I said before, not only to those that are internal of the House community, but those that are external. Because the only way for us to acquire this type of talent is by coming out to you guys and speaking with you. Our office is really here to just create a diverse workforce within Congress that looks like this room right now, which is the reason why this office was created.
Yeah, and so we've talked a lot about the office, but I think a part of diversity work is that words matter, and so we took a lot of time to craft these mission and vision statements for the office. So I'd just like to share it all with all of you. Our mission is to help create and cultivate a diverse and inclusive congressional workforce within the U.S. House of Representatives that's reflective of the American people. And we want to serve as an essential resource in the advancement of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility by delivering optimal services to the House community. And so really, we're here to be a resource to both people who are actively in the House and people who are prospective and want to enter the House.
What are the services that we provide, or what are the services that this office actually has for you all? The candidate services. So when I was an undergrad, or before graduating, I had 0 resumes. My resume was a 3-page resume. I had no work experience, yet it was still a 3-page resume. Interviews, I had never done an interview before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to say or how to even respond to some of these interview questions. So we are here to help you in the creation of a resume, in making that resume better for the next career opportunity. And we're also here to do those mock interviews and prepare you for that full-time position, for that internship, and that really is one of our main services and one that we've been trying to focus on. Like I said before, Katrina and myself were the only ones really focusing on candidate services, but now we've grown to 4 staffers that are solely in charge of what candidate services actually looks like. Programming, and Katrina will go on research and DEI training. The programming that we've done, and Daniela actually, with Congressman Peters, said that she joined one of her programs, which was the Hispanic Heritage Month program. This program is really to inform the community of what resources or what organizations exist outside of Capitol Hill to help you potentially come to DC and really just be that resource for everyone that is looking or just wanting to learn a little bit more.
And before I go on to the data research we do in the training, I'll just circle back to candidate services very quickly. One thing that I want to emphasize for you guys is I'm sure you guys have a great, career resources center on campus, and you may have friends who are currently professionals in different fields who can really give you great resume advice. Use those resources. But why you want to come talk to Diego and I and the rest of our candidate services team is we're giving really specific feedback that is meant for Congress. Congressional resumes look very different than private sector resumes, and we're going to help you translate skill sets that might be coming from, customer service, retail, whatever your current part-time job or full-time job is. We're going to help you translate those into words and skill sets that are going to be very relevant to congressional office. So I'll just put that plug in there. But for research and data analytics, so prior to the creation of our office, we didn't have a lot of data about what the demographics of the U.S. House of Representatives workforce looked like. We just didn't know what was the age distribution, what was the race, ethnicity distribution, even education levels. And so we're starting to collect that data about our workforce so we understand what it looks like and we know which areas to grow in. And so that is our summary of research and data analytics. Also with DEIA trainings, we realized that it's not just about getting people into the House, it's about wanting them to stay. And so we provide trainings to internal House offices to help them foster concepts like belonging, inclusion, and equity.
So what I mentioned before, why work at the House of Representatives? This is a work environment that I had never seen. This is something that you could only experience within the House of Representatives, whether that's a district office or whether that's in Washington, D.C. It's a fast-paced environment, which I think is great for you to kind of just learn and see what it looks like. Like I said, whether it's in the district or in D.C., it's a little bit of both worlds. Before I came into this office, I actually was in a district office, and then was lucky enough, or because I wanted to, go up to Washington, D.C., so I saw what those both worlds look like. So when it comes to a district office, it's very constituent services related. You're really getting to know what the district actually looks like. D.C. is the policy, and it's the legislative world of it. But it helps you kind of connect with what your community would potentially would want, or what's best for your community. And there is no other place within the country where you're able to do a direct impact to your community and to the country as a whole. This is really what Congress is like. For me, I was able to work for the member that was my hometown member, which is Miami, and I was able to work not only for the member, but I was able to work for my community back home. And this is something that really made an impact on me because I was able to bring all of that positive stuff as a small voice and bring it back to my community and help my community is essentially what I always wanted.
Yeah, so Diego didn't give you enough reasons. I'm going to add a few more in there. The House of Representatives is really a dynamic work environment. You never really meet a staffer that's bored with their job. They might be tired, they might be busy, but they're never bored. So if that's the kind of work you like to do where you're just constantly active, every day looks different, I encourage you to consider the House of Representatives. Also, impactful work, speaking directly to what Diego was talking about. You really do get a craft policy or directly work with your community if you're in a district office. This is really impactful work where you can see the changes that you're making in the lives of American people. I think one of the coolest things I talked to an intern about recently is that they took it upon themselves. This is someone who's, still an undergrad. They were, I think, a junior or something. And during their internship on the Hill, it was only 3 months, they took it upon themselves to research a piece of legislation that they were very passionate about. And they, wrote up this whole memo, just explained the pros and cons of the legislation, like why the member should vote for it, and they presented it to the member. And the member looked at it and said, I agree with you, and they voted on the legislation. So, where else do you do that as someone who's in their 20s or maybe 19 or something, right? So it's really impactful work. The Hill is also a really strong community. Networking, I think, is maybe a dirty word in other communities, but in DC, it's something you do. And it's a tight-knit community on the Hill because you're all spending long hours together, going through votes, working, collaborating between offices. And so, super strong community. I'll now pass through the last 2 career development and networking opportunities. I've met so many people who started their careers on the Hill, and they're like, I never knew all these other career paths were out there, even beyond the Hill. When you're, working in a place that has to write legislation on every aspect of American life, you get to meet people from the entertainment industry, from the tech industry, from agriculture, foreign affairs, all of the imaginable areas of policy that exist. These are organizations, advocacy groups coming to talk to your office, and that could be your next career opportunity, the next thing that you go on to in the future. So it's a really great place to expand what's out there for you.
Working with a member office. So like I mentioned before, I worked in both the district and in the DC office. And what does that look like? So as a staff member, you report to one of the House's 441 congressional members. So there's 435 members, but there's delegates as well. So Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands. Each office is run differently depending on the style of the member. So each member has their own style, has their own chief. So there isn't like a centralized HR within Congress. The purpose of this office, for the personal office, is to support the member and making sure that they vote correctly or they vote with what the community needs or wants. And it's really here to be that support for the community when you work for a personal office. Most offices have, and we spoke about what those specific fields or what those jobs actually look like in Congress. There's administrative, there's financial, there's legislative, and there's a communication staff, which is really the voice of the member. This is the setup of what a member office looks like. So the member's obviously on top, the chief of staff, and then it breaks into different pillars. So communications director, obviously the voice of the member. Some members have expanded and have grown into this digital era, obviously. So digital director, not very common within member offices, but they do exist. And then there's a press secretary or a digital assistant, which really is that support to what the communications director needs. In the middle, there's the executive assistant, which isn't very common, but the scheduler and the operations manager is really the pillar of what that member office actually looks like. So members obviously have a very busy schedule, and the person that's in charge of that schedule is the scheduler. And then at the entry-level position would be the staff assistant position, which is a route that many staffers that go into Congress end up taking first and then end up growing into different fields. On the legislative side, legislative director is the one that's in charge of what the members are actually voting on, what the bills look like. Senior counsel, which tends to be a little bit more senior within senior leadership offices in Congress. And then there's legislative aide, which is more or less a segue to become a legislative director, and the legislative correspondent, which is really the one that is that entry-level position when you're looking for a legislative role within that member office. And I know we don't have the district, but I would say that district offices, and Marianne, you obviously run your shop here, but the district office is a little bit different. It's not very common to have a chief of staff within the district office, but my old office actually had their chief of staff in the district. because I feel that that is a way for the chief to connect more within the community, and that's how I know my office was set up. I'm thinking that your office is the same way. And then there's constituent service representatives, which are the ones that meet with constituents and constituent service. So in San Diego, I don't know what that would look like, but in Miami, constituent services was really based on immigration. We have a very diverse population, and constituent services for us was really immigration, and I had no idea you could do this, but you could go into a district office and speak with a constituent service representative and essentially get any type of help that you might need.
Yeah, and so just to speak a little bit more, so I imagine most of you guys are wondering and looking at all this and like, what do I need to do to get at least the entry-level positions, right? So for anyone who's looking more entry-level press assistants, digital assistants, really work on writing skills. I've even had people work on their resumes and they did digital design for clubs where they create flyers and things. Having that digital portfolio of just different designs you've made is really helpful. Staff assistants, a lot of people, when you think of staff assistants, a lot of people assume, oh, you need a gritty administrative skill sets, and that's definitely true, but something that a lot of people don't think about is customer service skills. The biggest role of a staff assistant is answering that phone when a constituent calls and getting that constituent the help they need. And so if and that doesn't matter if the constituent's mad, the constituent's happy, they're sad and crying, they're angry, whatever it may be, that staff assistant has to be able to help and de-escalate the situation. So if you're in the service industry, those skills that you're gaining in customer service are very essential for staff assistants. Then legislative correspondence. Basically, what you guys might not know is every member office, you can send emails, letters to those member offices asking questions about policy or advocating for a certain issue. And most member offices will do their absolute best to get letters back to you, describing, replying to whatever you are asking about. And so that's the job of the legislative correspondent. And so, writing skills are a huge asset there. And so if you have more questions, we're happy to answer about those. But just to give you guys an idea of what skill sets to think about as you maybe apply to one of these positions one day. Okay, so one other area that we want to talk about beyond member offices is committees. So most people, if they've thought about working in Congress before, they thought about working for a member of Congress. And that's obviously the most plentiful jobs because there's 441 members. But there's also committees. So if you're someone who's like, I don't care about agriculture or tax or foreign policy, I only want to work on science, space, and technology policy, there's a committee for that. And so committee staffers are very jurisdiction specific. There's a committee on agriculture, so if you work for that committee, you're only doing agriculture policy. If you're with the Committee on Foreign Affairs, you're only doing foreign affairs policy. And so these are really great for people who are more specialized in their fields and are very subject matter specific. There's 20 permanent committees. There's a whole list of them online. There's even rotating committees that might last for a Congress or two and have very specific jurisdictions. For example, this Congress, the Committee on Modernization of Congress is ending. And so similar to member offices, committees have communication staff, they have a huge legislative staff, they have operations staff, and they're really great because of research staff as well. And so I will caveat this diagram with committees are very different in their structures, but we try to do our best to kind of just give you an idea of the different positions that exist. So at the top member of a committee is the chairperson. So the chairperson is with the majority party. So right now, since the Democrats are in the majority in the House, the chairperson is a Democrat. And then the ranking member would be someone from the Republican Party, and then, majority switch and those positions switch as well. But the top staffer of a committee is a staff director. So very akin to chief of staff in member office, a staff director is at the top of a committee. And then quickly, we just have communication staff, operations staff. On committees, you will see a lot of people who have JDs, counsel. So committees do a lot of, the wording, specific wording on legislation, so having that legal background is very helpful for that. You also have policies and legislative staffers who do not have JDs, and then member services, financial administrators, and system administrators. Since committees can have, over 100 staff in comparison to a member office, which we have 15, 17, committees are very large, and so they need that extra support in those areas.
So what I mentioned before, one of the main things that our office does is candidate services. So we are with resume banks. We deal with the majority, which is the majority right now is Democrat, so with the majority resume bank, and with the Republican resume bank as well. We do informational meetings. So these informational meetings is when we meet with the candidates or with folks that are looking to get jobs within Capitol Hill. Between Katrina and myself, we pretty much divide what those meetings would look like and meet with the candidate and discuss future of what a job on Capitol Hill could look like, what a specific member office would look like, what a committee would potentially look like. We give insights onto life on the Hill and what that really does more or less look like for us. We've all had different stories as we've got into Congress, and we talk about that because everyone's story is completely different, but the end goal for us is to potentially help you land that job. When we do these resume reviews, that's when we look at your resume, and that's what I had mentioned before, is we structure what that resume should look like so that we can then send that resume over to a member office to which one that you have applied for. We do application advice because this process is very different from what another process in the private sector would look like. So we discuss what that might even look like, and we give our advice that would hopefully help you. And the mock interviews is really one of the things that helps the candidate go on to that next level and land that position. This is all divided between Katrina, myself, and the rest of the candidate services team.
And so like we talked about earlier, we do a lot of regular programming with the office. I think our next event is a Veterans Day event next month.
November.
Yeah, November 10th, I think. And so anyways, if you want to stay up to date on what events were happening, a lot of them are virtual, so you can, log in and join. That link at the bottom is there. I will have a QR code into the presentation too that also links to the same website, so you don't have to furiously type it. And then also on our website is our data and research. So earlier I talked about how we're collecting demographics data on the House workforce. We also have some compensation data on there. And so if you're interested in seeing this data and whatever we do with it in the future, that's on our website. It's interactive, so you can filter by the 2 years we've done it, 2019 and 2021. You can filter and look at what do the demographics of people who are specifically within the chief of staff position look like versus the demographics of people who are in specifically the staff assistant positions, right? And so there's all these different filters, district offices versus DC offices, and so on. And so if you're a little bit of a data nerd, and I am, so I will say that, please look at it, let us know if you have questions. It's one of my favorite things on our website. And so now we're gonna go into some Q&A. I hope you guys have questions for us. Diego and I are pretty open books, so we are happy to answer anything you might have. But as you guys think of questions, I will put our QR code, which will link you to our social media, our newsletter, our website, and I think even our email is on there for the office. So all the things are on this QR code.
Yes.
Can any of your job opportunities have like a way to move up, or is there kind of room for growth?
So I would say, and I'll give you an example. My old chief of staff started with my old boss as an intern. And by the time my boss retired in 2019, the chief was a chief. And that was the trajectory that they had within this one office. But I think in Congress, it's very easy to just grow within your roles or within the field. I think Marianne did a great example with Caesar. That's one of her staffers. Started as an intern, and now he's on the management team. So that development does exist. And we've been doing candidate service for the past 2 years, and we've seen folks that have started, that we've helped land a position, an entry-level position, and now we're helping them get to that next level. And this is really where our team has seen the growth of candidates and of folks that are looking to grow within Congress, and either within their office or with another office. I think that's one of the pluses, or one of the perks that I've seen being a congressional staffer, because I see that growth. And now that there are more positives working for Congress, like Dr. Moon said, the starting level salary has been raised, which is now $45,000. It's not a lot, but it's definitely much better than where we were 5 years ago. So when I first started, my salary was $26,000, and it was $26,000 in the district, and when I moved to DC, it was still $26,000. So I've seen that growth in the past 5 years, 4 years, because this is really the only way for us to retain and keep that staff, so that staff is happy and don't go off to the private sector.
And can I just say, I think that also the team is a manifestation of that. If I'm correct, you started as a scheduler.
Yeah.
She then went on to become a staffer, and now she's a senior professional staffer. So I think that you see that career mobility opportunity, not only in member offices, not only on committees, but also in support offices, specifically in our office as well.
Yeah, and so a few other things I'll just add is the House workforce is very fluid. The staffers are constantly moving. And so it's very common that as a staff assistant, you only stay in that position a year because the next opportunity presents itself and you're moving on to be a legislative correspondent, or you're moving on to be a press assistant or a scheduler, whichever your chosen pathway is. And so it's very common for people to stay in a position for a year, move up to the next one. And sometimes that happens within the office you started with. Sometimes that happens by you jumping to another office. And so the pathways are really all over. I will also say, in addition to the compensation, Diego was talking about, one of my personal favorite things about working in the House is the benefits. We have really great health care, like health insurance. We get the same health insurance as federal employees. And so if you ever talk to someone who works for, the federal government, they have really great health insurance. So that's something I really enjoy. Student loan repayments as well. I fortunately was able to come into my position without debt from undergrad, but I know many colleagues who have really benefited from student loan repayment that's provided by your office in addition to your base salary. And so those are just other things to consider beyond, base level compensation. Yeah, more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, so I got a question. So as far as like the workplace environment for those different positions, is it really, I would say, like diverse? Like if you're a digital assistant and then you're a press secretary, does the day-to-day work seem completely different, I guess, from a Monday through Friday in an office?
I would say yes. Yes. Obviously, it depends on the dynamic of what the member wants, because each member is very different. There are some members that want to be on social media all the time. There are other members that want to be on TV all the time. So there is no office that looks the same. And then there are others that just want to keep it, low on the radar at least. But what that role actually looks like is really just based on what the member wants. But I would say that it's very different and it's very busy. You're never bored, to what Katrina would say, or have said.
Yeah. One other thing I will note about Congress is we've talked about some normal titles throughout the presentation, like press secretaries, press assistants, but they're not standardized titles in Congress because each individual office has a lot of flexibility to determine exactly what they call their staff position-wise. So you see people negotiating titles quite often to really reflect how much work they're doing, because a press assistant in one office, like Diego said, maybe the member is very low profile, so they're not, doing as much digital work. It's a lot more writing. But then you have a press assistant in another office who's doing a lot of social media, a lot of, video and graphic design. And so they might negotiate, to better reflect my duties, I don't want to be called a press assistant. Can I have the title of, digital manager or something like that? So things like that are very fluid in Congress.
Hope that answers. Yes.
I think that a huge thing that would be about working, on the Hill, how is the work-life balance? I feel like that would be really intimidating.
I felt where I feel that working in Congress it's like a little boot camp that prepares you for something bigger and better, or for just staying within Congress. But the hours are definitely not the 9 to 5s. If you work in a personal office, it might be stressful because you're there for the member and you're working for the member, and you need to be at the member's disposal pretty much whenever they need something. And so I'm sure you've seen on TV when the members are voting for XYZ bill and it's 2 in the morning and they left Congress at 2 in the morning. For the most part, as a staffer in DC, you need to be there until the member leaves. And if the member gets to the office and there's no one there and it's 1 in the morning, I would not want to be there the next day. So, and in the district, it looks very different because you're heavy on constituent services, so you're meeting with people all the time. But when the member is in the district, that changes completely because you need to go with the member, you need to staff the member to events, to different the things that the member would get invited to. And what that looks like, it all depends on the member, obviously. But it is, it's definitely not your 9 to 5, like I said before. And it varies, obviously. There are some members that require more, and there are others that might be a little bit less. But it really is, for me, a place that I was able to kind of get that work ethic that I've created for myself by being in these spaces. And I know with confidence that wherever I go next, it will never, hopefully it won't, look like what I did earlier in life. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, one other thing I'll just add, and I never really thought about this before working in Congress, but a little vocab lesson. So, I don't know, terminology. So in Congress, you hear, if you talk to staffers, you hear a lot about in session and out of session. So in session is when the members are in Congress and they're voting. And so as a DC staffer, when you're in session, you probably spend long hours because of all the things Diego just said. But something to keep in mind is those members are working just as long as you are. So, you're there for a reason. But out of session is when the members are in the district offices. And so the DC staff then might be more of that normal 9 to 5 during that period. But then the district staff might be more, running around and having the longer hours, and then it switches, in session, out of session. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. While Congress can be intense, it's not doesn't necessarily have to be all 365 days of the year. There are, things like August recess and, things like that. Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like the office, the ODI, has been open for about 3 years, or functioning for 3 years. And so far I've heard that you've been reaching out to colleges, and it seems from a lot of testimonials that a lot of people have come in as interns during college. So my question is your main focus for outreach to get the jobs opportunities to the people, is it mainly colleges and universities that you're going to?
So colleges and universities are definitely a very important part of our pipeline. Giving people early career opportunities is huge, right? Because those entry-level positions give you the necessary experience to then go on to mid and senior level positions, right? But it's not the only thing we do. We do talk to a lot of professionals who are already, well into their career. They might be at an advocacy group, or they might be with a lobbying firm. They might be, academics working in policy areas. And we also talk to them to help them jump directly into and bring their skill sets and expertise directly into more mid and senior level positions. So we're really kind of taking a full 360 approach, going from entry level positions, pre-entry level with internships, to then those mid-level positions and even directly into senior level positions.
And can I say, today's an example of that. We're preparing for the 118th Congress, so we're looking to identify qualified candidates for positions at all organizational levels. And before we were here, we were at the Society of Human Resource Management's Inclusion Conference, also trying to recruit best talent. So she says 360, I think she just hit the nail on the head. We're looking at marginally serving institutions, community college, post-secondary, as well as minority serving organizations, where we can really find talent at all, from entry all the way up to executive level.
Thank you.
So I will say this, I know that we're low on time. Jason, can you bring we want to give enough time for people to come, the gifts. We want to leave enough time for people to be able to come and meet the team, ask a couple of one-on-one questions. Thank you so much for having us. On behalf of our office, one, we would like to thank, I think President Hands might have stepped out for a quick moment, but her entire team, the logistics staff for having us. Also to the office of Congressman Scott Peters, Mary Ann, your full team has been so gracious. So please accept these small tokens on behalf of our team. Thank you guys for coming out today. I hope that you all recognize for our first event, I think what you're hitting on the nail on the head is sometimes strategic recruitment can go to the same type of environments. When people are looking for diverse talent, they go to HBCUs, they go to HSIs, they often overlook community college spaces, professional organizations, and so for you all, that a real reflection of the American dynamic that we're trying to bring into the house, it means a lot for our first event to be at Mesa College. So thank you guys so much for having us. Please meet the team and make sure that you sign up to learn more about it.
I'll fall in your lead. Right there? I'll lead it.
Do you want this? Yeah, if you just put just a little bit to your right. Okay. There you go, there you go. Okay, she's like. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, look over here.
Yeah, radio on my camera.
Oh, okay. Join. Excellent, yes, join. Hold on, Christina, no, I want you to hold it.
I'll do it.
I got you.
And then we're gonna have to steal one of those from you.
No problem. If you guys could step up just a little, because some of your heads are like being lovely,
yeah.
like right that line of the, especially our tall friends. A little more forward, a little more. Let's make sure we can see Jason. Let's have you tilt just a little, like we're all going
to be a little sideways a little bit?
right? We're all ready. Have you come forward up here? Okay, all right. Excellent.
Okay, I'll take the first one and then Ty will take the big picture, okay? Give me 1 second. And one thing. And then it's all your time.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more time. Let me get it. Vertical shot. Ready? 1, 2.